So we're going to talk about why this business fits for you and, what excited you. But I want to really go back to the beginning. When did you first start thinking that owning a business was maybe in the cards for you?
There was a specific moment. I will say that before that moment, the idea of being an entrepreneur was always kind of in my blood, in my head. And I didn't really tie the two together, but both of my mom's dad and my dad's dad were small business owners. And I don't remember early on thinking that was a cool idea yet, but as I got older, I particularly remember my mom's daddy ran a paper company. And I remember seeing paper boxes all over their house and just thinking how cool it was that he was a small business owner. But, I graduated from college. I got into a sales job and then I did well at that. And it was actually, interestingly enough, that sales job was in technology. I sold technology to public school districts for what we know in Chicago as CDW and CDWG. But I didn't want to make a career out of that, so I joined in finance. And my career in finance, there were opportunities to scratch the itch of being an entrepreneur. But what really happened for me was when I was in business school at night, and a gentleman came to a class. I actually majored in entrepreneurship and innovation, and he talked about his journey from leaving his commercial real estate job to buy a small business. And it always stuck with me. I took like rigorous notes, probably the most detailed notes I took during business school. And fast forward to about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I just had this moment where I was driving to work. I didn't usually drive to work, but I was in the car and I said, I think it's time. And I think this is the avenue I want to go down. And I had no idea what to do. And so I started that process and ultimately I got to Sun Acquisitions. And that's when you and I kind of first met and talked. Yeah.
So before you got to us, though, what had you done up to that point in time? Had you started to look at businesses? Where did you start? How did you start the journey? And I know at some point in time you sort of stopped and took a breather and you contacted us and then we engaged and helped you. But before that point in time, what were the things that you were doing?
I talked to a lot of people, and then I was lucky enough to having a sales background. You develop a pretty thick skin. You also develop kind of a comfortability around a low hit rate. I knew that if I put my feelers out as much as I could and really learned from as many people as I could, the better off I'd be. And so I started talking to lawyers. I started talking to business brokers. I didn't really get down looking at businesses for sale. I did start a little bit on the internet just to get an idea, but immediately it didn't feel like the depth I wanted. Mm-hmm. And as I interviewed and talked to more people and some individual business brokers, lawyers, everything else, the more I learned about what I thought I needed as almost a jungle guide going through this, because as much as I got so much information from the gentleman who spoke in my class, that got me to a point, and I needed enough comfortability around what I was going into. I was looking at leaving a really great career. I'm a father of 3 young kids. I didn't want to step into this journey without a competent jungle guide. And what I learned through before I got to you all was just more around what I needed and what I didn't. That they helped refine that idea of what I was looking for.
So let's start with, you didn't set out to buy a technology media company, right? I mean, that's not something that was on the slate. Yet you've gotten to the point where, this is your fit and you're going to move forward with this business. But what was that process like for you, going through the discovery of, what prospective businesses might work for you? And also maybe what did you know wouldn't work for you?
I casted a wide net. And what I stole a phrase from the gentleman who spoke in my class. you're trying to look for something dusty, not rusty, you know, and I knew that I was going to apply a lot of energy to a small business, and that energy was going to be the asset. But if it was rusty and if it wasn't kind of ready to move, my energy wasn't going to do anything. So if you apply that to a broad stroke of industries, it can apply to a lot of things. And, you know, what was helpful for me was certainly working with Larry and your team, because he applied questions. He didn't say, stop being so broad. He helped me just ask questions as we go through. And, but I had believed from the beginning about this idea of home technology. I just wasn't sure how to, I didn't want to just stick with that and go. So we looked at a lot of different industries, some that, you know, would just have nothing to do with technology. But as we asked questions, you know, one of the things I'll never forget that Larry said to me is, as we were going through a couple of iterations, was, you know, you just have to ask yourself, when you wake up in the morning, are you going to be excited to go to work?
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard similar advice.